So on today's show, we have the incredibly talented Mr. Matt Willis. Matt is synonymous with the hugely popular punk band Busted, who I'm sure I speak for many millennials here when I say soundtrack my school years as a teenager. After Busted, Matt moved on to be a super successful solo artist, as well as launching the megaband McBusted with his friends from McFly. He was crowned the king of the jungle in I'm a Celebrity, and on top of this, now spends his time as an incredibly successful actor, both on the screen and on the stage. He also has his own podcast, When No One's Watching, which he co-hosts with Matt Richardson. And so we've got plenty to talk about with Matt today. Matt, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good, man. I'm really good. I'm really, really good. I sometimes forget about the jungle. Like it's only when it comes up every year that I go, oh yeah, I did that. I forgot about that. So whenever someone says I didn't know the jungle, yeah, I'm always like, oh yeah, I did that. Yeah.
I didn't know that about you until I did my research for this talk. So I'm sure we'll get onto that later on. But how have you been coping with the pandemic and everything?
Do you know what? I mean, it's. If I'm honest, I found this one tougher. This lockdown has been a bit tough because I got a taste of things going back to normal a little bit. Like I had a theatre job and we were running up to Christmas. We were doing a Christmas carol in the run up to Christmas, and to be honest, when the job first came up, I was like, yes, but it ain't gonna happen, And then before I knew it, we were like 2 days before rehearsal. I was like, oh my God, right, okay, I need to learn these lines. I kind of didn't really anticipate it happening. And then, so then, we kind of got the show up and running and we opened and we did 11 shows and we got shut down, so it was like, and then we're in lockdown again and Christmas happened. And, so it was just like, it was, I found that quite a tough period, tougher than I thought I would, because, I don't know, I'm a doer, and I kind of, and I find, I don't know. I love acting so much. I love being able to do what I do. To taste that again and then know that I had jobs coming up in February, March, April, which were probably going to get taken away again. I was like, oh God, So it was tougher, this one, I think. But once again, it's about going right. Control what I can control. This is out of my hands. I cannot control the situation. What can I control? And that's what I can do, so but there was a couple of weeks where I was, I wasn't able to quite grasp that mindset again for a little while. And I had to have a serious word with myself and kind of spend some time and go, right, well, what's going on here? And a little bit of a reset. And then it's like, right, control the situation. How can you control your situation? And then, we move on.
Yeah, I mean, it can. I talk a lot on this podcast about Stoicism, and I like to sort of share quotes from Marcus Aurelius and all these guys on Instagram and stuff. And I found it really powerful during the lockdown. And they're all about controlling what you can control and not worrying about anything outside of that. But it's very much easier said than done, right? And we all go through times when we completely let it slip.
Yeah, and I think for me, if I'm honest, part of that was watching the news. Like, I realized very quickly that watching the news for me was not a good thing. Like, and I was becoming, for someone who's never really been interested in politics or anything to do with the what you would normally watch on the news. I was watching the news 10 hours a day, flicking through news channels, trying to find some, and I think it was just not doing me very good. So I was like, right, okay. That's the first thing to go, so limit yourself to a certain amount of time when you can take on information, and the rest of the time you deal with your life, so, and that's so good. That's so true. I've been reading some Stoicism stuff as well. And it kind of links in a lot with sobriety as well. Like the serenity prayer is, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change and the courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference. And it was like, that was something which kind of keeps going over my head, it's like, right, accept the things you cannot change, but have the courage to change the things you can, so that was kind of, really important, in the first two lockdowns. And I kind of forgot that for a second. Then I was like, right, okay, bang, there we go.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. It's key to have those mantras to keep playing over, isn't it?
Yeah.
Super. So I want to go back, and I actually know very little about you, where you've come from, your childhood, anything sort of pre-Busted. As I said in the intro, there, you were very much you and the guys from Busted were very much a part of my teenage years, and I was a massive fan, still am, but I was a massive fan when I was growing up. Can you tell us a little bit about where you grew up, what your childhood was like, how you fell into this sort of creative pathway, and how that led to you eventually forming Busted?
Yes, I grew up in Surrey in a kind of in a town called Molesey, and we kind of we lived in.
Did you really? I grew up in East Molesey.
Oh, did you really? Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay, right, cool. So we lived.
That's mental.
Yeah, that's crazy. So we lived on a council estate in Molesey, and we kind of we grew up there, and it was kind of, it's kind of very normal kind of working class upbringing, and I didn't really have any kind of dreams or aspirations of being anything more than what I saw on a day-to-day basis. And I think, but I don't know what happened. I think basically at school I wasn't very good. For some reason, something didn't work. I wasn't like other kids, right? And I couldn't really, no one could work it out because I wasn't naughty, and like if you sat me down, if I was into something, I would be full steam ahead. Like you put something in front of me that I was interested in, and I could hyper focus and get really into it. Put something in front of me that I don't really care about, and I had a real struggle retaining information. Kind of like school just didn't really work for me, and kind of. But I found things that interested me, like the school play happened, and it was the first kind of chance that kind of like you had to audition, and I was kind of like it was the first kind of thing that I kind of excelled at, and I was kind of found this kind of thing that I can. Performance is something which I really enjoy, and learning this and kind of going on stage after preparing something I found really intriguing and really quite intoxicating, and then music happened to my life, and like and really kind of my brother was hugely into like punk music and rock music, and that was kind of a big part of his life, but I wasn't really allowed that because that was his thing, So
Right.
so there was you live in the room with your brother, and like don't listen to the Red Hot Chili Peppers, don't listen to Green Day. That's my thing. You can have your own thing. You can
have Britney.
Exactly. You can have what you can have, but you can't have this. And I think, but it subtly went in, and before I knew it, we'd started a band together with my brother's mate and me. My brother joined, called Sabotage, that we did in our room, and we played punk covers of Green Day and Chili Peppers badly, and that kind of formed this kind of love of music for me as well, So I think from an early age, I'm not saying anything against my upbringing, or I don't want to bring anything about my parenting or that into this, but from a very early age I knew what the one thing I wanted to do was get away. I wanted to get out. I wanted to move away, get as far away from this as possible, and I kind of had that urge in me, and if that had been through hairdressing, anything, I would have done it, I kind of like needed something to go, boom, get me out of here, and I kind of don't know what that was, but I've always felt that, and that still drives me today in some weird way. I was thinking about it the other day, like I was talking to my therapist, and we were kind of talking that I had this fear of being back in that room, and it's still kind of in me a little bit, but it drives me, it's like, so I don't necessarily dislike that, because there is still part of that which I, like I'm much more comfortable, much more happy in the place I am, these days, but there is still part of me that is driven by the fear of failure, which is such a huge part of life and a huge part of everyone's life that happens again and again and again and again and again. But I think that does drive me, So yeah, grew up there, and then when I was about 14, my mum used to make me sing in talent competitions. My mum became a little bit
Right.
obsessed with how I could sing, right? And so she would drive me up and down the country I say up and down the country within like an hour of our home.
Yeah.
You know, and we
Guildford
drive
to London.
Yeah, exactly. Guilted to go to these kind of like, I don't know what you'd even call them. Like when you win a trophy, you know, for singing in some competition in some, you know, small theatre in some local town, you know, like, and there'd be like a winners of the region thing or whatever, you know, like, and I'd go into that and I'd sing and, you know, we'd do well in some of them and not well in the others, but my mum was really into it. I hated doing it. I used to get in the car at the weekend, just want to hang out with my mates, and like it came to a point where I just said no, you know, like, but that took a while to kind of get to that point. But that was a big thing. And then we were at a Haven holiday camp, and she made me do the talent competition there. And I was like, all right, cool, let's do it again. You know, so I did the talent show and I sung a song and I won. And it just so happened that someone that was there knew someone who worked at Sylvia Young Theatre School, and they were like, you should meet this guy because he's got like a musical that he wants people to sing on. I was like, okay, cool, great, that sounds amazing. Oh my god, you know, someone that works in this theatre school that I'd heard that like famous people went to when they were kids, you know. So like, and long story short, before I knew it, I ended up with a scholarship to Sylvia Young, you know, like through various meetings and introductions, you know, and I kind of auditioned, and then I went to Sylvia's and my life changed. Like literally my life became, suddenly I could see possibilities which I didn't really know existed. You know, I think when you come from a certain background and a certain place, you see a certain horizon, and suddenly my horizons became huge, you know, and like I could see people who were doing things, and like, you know, like kids in my class, like, you know, in my class, Billie Piper left my class like when she was 15 to become the biggest pop star in the country for a couple of years, you know, and I saw that happen to someone who I sat next to, and suddenly I could see this kind of like, oh my gosh, like this, and that kid's in EastEnders, and that kid is Oliver in the West End, you know, like I was like, wow, this is like, you know, and suddenly I was like, well, I could actually do some of this stuff, you know, I could actually do something, you know, with this thing that I enjoy, you know, and it really kind of changed from there, really.
Amazing. And I read somewhere that Amy Winehouse was there at the same time as you as well.
She was in my class for the whole time. Yeah, she was amazing. She was a good friend. Yeah, she was incredible.
Very sad.
Yeah, very sad story. I mean, she was amazing.
You mentioned there at the start your drive to get away. Is that and you say it's still there now for you? Do you think that is there a pull from the other side as well? Is there something that you think you're still trying to get to? I mean, you've had so much success in your career, but you're obviously still so driven. Is it a drive away from failure, or is there something that you see? Are you more goal driven by something in the future, I guess?
Well, I think it's different, right? Because with music, I don't really have that goal driven attitude anymore. Like with music is much more of a passion that I love. Like with the band, I see Busted now, like we tour like every couple of years and we release an album, we love it and we have a great time, and it means a lot to our fan base and it means a lot to us. But Busted is now something which I don't know. I don't really feel like I have that much more to, I don't know. I don't have a point to prove with that anymore. Like we've kind of, we split up at the height of, you know, what you could be in the UK. We went off, we came back, we played arenas, we had a hit album, we had some songs on the radio. I'm like, cool. I don't really know what else I really want to do with that. Do you know, like, don't get me wrong, like, but that doesn't stop me from wanting to do it because I love it, you know? So it's like, but am I goal driven there? No, I'm passion driven there. That's something which I do because I love it. It's like more like my number one job that I've ever had in my life has become my hobby and passion, which is incredible. Awesome. You know, like that's so awesome, and I have that in my pocket. And like whenever Busted tour, it's just such a blessing. You know, I kind of look out to these people that kind of, you know, and I see this fan base that have followed us since we were, you know, 18-year-old kids. You know, like and me and James started this band in his bedroom when we were 16. We left school and started this band, you know, so it was kind of like, I'm 37 now, so it's been like 20 years of writing these songs. Like we wrote What I Go to School For when we were 16, you know, and I play that song in front of 20,000 people, 60,000 people at a festival, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty amazing that this is still happening. This
still know all the words.
This shouldn't really still be happening, but for some reason it is. So it's kind of the gift that keeps on giving, and I love it with all my heart. But acting has a different feeling for me. Like that, I feel like I don't know, like I have this overwhelming sense of need to get better, need to be better, need to be better, need to be better, and like, but it's not to get anywhere. Like I have no, if I'm honest, like I don't have like, I think we can all sit down and I can go, well, Hollywood and movies and stuff like that, but that's not really, when I think about it, that is not actually anything to do with my goal. Like when I think about it, I just want to know that the work that I do is everything I possibly could make it, and so that's and I think that was a mindset change that came in a round of auditions of not getting the job, which is something which as an actor you have to get used to, right? Because you do hundreds of auditions a year if you're lucky. If you're with a good agent, you kind of find yourself in a place where people want to see you. Like I did 2 self-tapes this week, and at the moment, because of lockdown, you're not going into the room, you're sending off tapes and you're recording them in your home. And, and it's a constant like thing of recording, learning these lines, finding this character, recording this tape, sending it off, and I think if you, for a while, I get caught up in every job, and I'd think about the job and I think about, oh my God, what if I get this? Oh my God, what would happen if I got this job? This would be amazing, and then I didn't get it. And there's this a bit of feeling of resentment and neglect and rejection. And, it's a weird kind of cycle.
Do you get much in the way of feedback on rejection?
Feedback's a difficult thing because with, sometimes with casting, like I talked about this because I used to ask for feedback all the time, and why, what can I change, what can I make better, are my tapes not good enough? Like my agent would go, your tapes are great, and I talked to a friend of mine who's a casting director, and she went, what you don't understand is that we're looking for a specific thing, and when that thing comes on the screen, they've got the job. That's what it is, right? Is they have something in their head that they're looking for, and the director has too. The casting director picks up a few people that might fit that director's vision and sends them to the director. That's all it is. It's not about that you're terrible or you're just not fitting the vision. And once suddenly you will, or you'll get to a part in your life where you're lucky enough where people invent things for you. That's what's happening to Hugh Jackman and those kind of people. So it's a process, right? So it's but that kind of changed my thought pattern. And I heard Bryan Cranston talking about, because Bryan Cranston, really, you didn't really know him for years and years and years until he was a much older man, but he'd been acting for years, and there'd been 30 years of rejection, odd job here and there. And he talked about it, and he said that every audition is a chance to act, and every audition is a chance to do what you love. Treat it like that. Don't think of it as a job, because you're not going to get the job. And he said, you're not going to get the job. So go in there and choose it and use it as a chance to do what you do and to love what you do. And I was something around those lines. I'm paraphrasing someone who said something incredible. Sorry, but but the essence was that, And now I do, like I really do. Like I have these auditions. And I'm like, right, great. I get to play today. I get to act today. I get to be someone else. I get to invent someone new and put it on tape and send it away and forget about it. And that's kind of where I am now with it. And it's a much more enjoyable experience.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds so corny, doesn't it? Saying that it's all about the process, it's about the journey, it's not necessarily about that end point. But that genuinely is so true. I mean, I heard Johnny Wilkinson speaking about that recently on the High Performance podcast, and you see it so often, don't you? And he struggled with this, I know, with the sort of gold medal syndrome, where people who hit that massive heights of success then get out the other side and they think, okay, I've done that now what? And if they're not enjoying the process and they're putting themselves through pain to get there, then it can all seem a little worthless, I guess.
Yeah, and I suppose that must be so hard to look back and go, look what I put myself through, and what did I get? like Jim Carrey said it, didn't he? Like Jim Carrey said, I hope that everybody gets rich and famous so that they can realize it's not what they're looking for. And I was like, that's so brilliant because, I thought that was it. Like when Busted started, especially, I was like, we just need to be famous and as big as we possibly can be, and then, sell out as many arenas as possible, and everyone know our name, and like that's what it was about. Then you get there and you realize it's not what you thought it was. It's awesome. Don't get me wrong. It's really cool. But it doesn't make you happy. Like that's not what happiness is. Happiness is not, I don't know. I mean, it might be fame and money to somebody else, but it definitely wasn't for me.
When did you realize that, do you think? Like what stage did you get to? Did you hit a big high and then think, oh, this isn't, I'm not there. Like, where is it? Like, did you go through that personal growth at one stage? I'm sure you did, because I know you have done now. But
yeah, I've been through it a few times, if I'm honest. Like I've been like, I just need to get this, just need to do this, and like I've done it, and I've gone, oh, actually, no, I don't. I need to do this. There's a new goal, there's a new bench post, there's a new something. There's always something more, But that's part of goal setting, and like for me, like I have two specific goals which I want to achieve with acting. Once I get to there, I will make some new ones, but that's not the end goal. They're just my goals right now. Then I don't have an end goal, because I think with acting, I would be setting myself up for too much. Like there's so many moving parts with acting. Like I find that if I said I just need to do this, that's the end. I don't know how I would deal with that, so I have goals within 3 to 5 years that I'd like to be doing. And then I've done a few of those in the last 3 to 5 years. I've had to reset them. I'm like, right, okay, great. Done that. Boom. What do we do next? And so that's where I am, with goal setting. I can't really, I can't, there is no end of the race, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it comes down again, as you say, to what we discussed at the beginning, controlling what you can control. If you try and lead out with you can have a moonshot in mind, but if you try and lead out with that straight from the beginning, then you can't control all the variables to get you there, I guess.
Yeah, totally. I know we kind of listen to the same kind of stuff and read the same kind of books, so it's there is, you don't, I love Will Smith so much. Like I watch so much Will Smith stuff, and especially recently, like I just find his passion so endearing right now. And he's such an inspiring man. And he was kind of talking about how his father made him build a wall, and how you start by one brick and you lay that one brick as perfectly as you possibly can. Then you lay the next brick and you lay it as perfectly as you possibly can. And I see that as what I'm doing right now. Is I can't think about, and also because really everything I do is in front of a big crowd of people, so right now things aren't looking very good, so I can't think about that, so I have to go, right, okay, what can I do right now? So everything I'm doing, I'm trying to make it to kind of lay as perfectly as I possibly can, and then move on to the next one. Whether that be, fill and empty the dishwasher, whatever that is.
I'm going to smash it.
At the moment, I'm going to smash the shit out of it. And that's what's getting me through days sometimes. I'm like, right, I'm going to make the kitchen look absolutely bloody incredible.
I actually love that.
And sometimes that can be that can fill 2 hours of my day. That actually can fill me with a sense of achievement, so at the moment there's a moving goalpost, right? So if I haven't got anything else on, or I haven't got an audition, I haven't got a podcast, or I haven't got something else to kind of do, that can be like, right, okay, what can I achieve right now? Right, I can make this brilliant, let's go, and like yesterday I went mountain biking with my kids, and we've recently got into mountain biking. I say mountain biking, like I'm with a 9-year-old and 11-year-old, so it's like, and sometimes I have my 4-year-old in the seat behind my back. So we're not doing extreme off-roading or anything. But yesterday it was just me and my 2 eldest kids, and we were in this kind of like really quite a hard valley, And there was this one like part where my son didn't want to go down it. He was too scared. And I kind of like, I could see it in his face. And I was like, you've got to do this. I thought to myself, mate, I'm sorry. I just know that this is an important part of your life, and I felt this thing in me that became like, that I never had anyone like that to show me from an early age that you can achieve much more than you think you can, and the first time he fell, the first time he went down it, he was scared and he put his feet down and fell, then we got up, we talked about it, we went back to the top of the ravine, and we talked about it again, and he did it, and he was so absolutely stoked and so over the moon, but he didn't want to, like he was too scared, so in some ways I maybe forced him, which is a bit bad, but I don't know, at the time I was like, I know that you need to achieve this, because you need to know that what your limiting beliefs are exactly that, and I think we all have that, I have that all the time, I have this kind of little voice in my head that says, don't get too above your station. You're from a council flat. You don't. I have this like little voice in my head that tells me these things, and and sometimes I listen to it for too long, and then I have to snap out of it and go, no, like let's go, And yesterday I loved that moment with him, of kind of going, right, okay, cool, no, you're going to do this, and I mean, I don't know if he'll remember it in 10 years or not, but maybe he will.
That's awesome, mate. I mean, that literally gave me goosebumps. That is so powerful, and I think it's so interesting to hear that you still have that little voice in your head, because you've been smashing it for so many years now, and it's fascinating to hear that even after so much success, that you still have that little voice in the head saying you can't do that, you can't go any further.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Like, and sometimes I listen to it more than other times. Like for instance, me and my friend, I had an idea for a film, and I was like, like this idea wouldn't go away, and it kind of kept thinking, and and I've made a movie with a friend of mine who wrote the movie, directed the movie, produced the movie, did everything himself, and so me and him started talking about this idea, and we progressed it more. Before we know it, we've written something, and like I think that was kind of the thing. I was like, wow, I didn't know how to do any of that whatsoever before we started doing it, and then but then neither does anybody, and that there was a really big moment for me. I was like, wow, no one knows how to do anything until they do it, but until you actually go, okay, I'm gonna do this, or you're never gonna know the possibilities that you have, right? So like with anything you want to achieve in life, like until you commit and you do it, you're always gonna, I don't know, like for me, I would always talk myself out of things. I'd always kind of go, you can't do that, you don't know what you're doing, or you'll get found out, like whatever it is,
imposter
syndrome slips in, like don't, you've done really well so far, don't fucking rock the boat,
don't fuck it up.
Don't fuck it up, exactly. All this kind of stuff comes into her head, and then you're just like, do you know what, no, like that's like no one knows what they're doing until they do it, and like then you have plans, and you know what they say about plans, like people laugh when people make plans, but like what is it I don't want to talk about religion, I don't really believe in it, but there's a good saying about God laughs when a man makes plans, so it's but I believe that I just have to put one foot in front of the other, and before I know it, things start to move.
Things happen, and that's where the real joy comes as well. I find. I mean, in the last 18 months, 2 years, I've launched a startup with Parlour, my toothpaste brand. I've started this podcast, and both of those two things I've been thinking about probably for a year or two before I did them. Certainly, with starting my own startup business is something that I've always wanted to do, and I've just like you with the movie, I've always had these ideas. Oh, should we try that? Like me and my brother tried to make a protein fruit smoothie company about seven or 8 years ago. And I've always been thinking, oh, let's try that. And then you see someone else do it and you're like, oh, I literally had that idea and someone else has gone and done it. And it creates so much tension inside. And I can speak with 100% certainty now that I've actually done these things, and it pushes you so far out of your comfort zone. I mean, I knew nothing about e-commerce, direct to consumer. I knew nothing about running a podcast, buying all this gear and the mics, and learning how to interview, which I'm still very much learning. But the joy and the fun that you get out of it, and the buzz you get out the other side, is that's what life's all about. I think it's those moments that you really find joy, I think.
Yeah, do you know what? You're so right, because you know, your comfort zone is comforting, but it's not rewarding. You know, like that's the difference, right? It's comfortable, but it's not rewarding. You know, like but there's something about pushing past that which can like, for instance, right? I started a t-shirt brand a couple of years ago called Jerk, right? And I had this idea. You know, I'd sell these kind of t-shirts and like build up like a clothing brand. But to be honest, I didn't really care about it. You know, I did it because I saw other people in bands doing it and it doing quite well, right? That's not the reason to do something. You know, for me, it definitely wasn't. I saw other people doing it and then succeeding in it and thought, I could probably do that, you know, but I don't really care about it. You know, and I'll kind of just make something happen. And before I knew it, there's lots of people who would like to make money from me doing that. You know, so before I knew it, I had a team of people and we had something going and boom, 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 you know. But the bottom line is I didn't care, you know. So if you don't care, it's never going to work. You know, you can't, you know, what have you got to build on, you know. And I'm, you know, I said I didn't care. I liked the idea of it. I thought it was cool, you know, but really it's not a passion. It doesn't drive me. It doesn't get me up in the morning. I couldn't wait to have a Jerk meeting. You know, I didn't care, you know, like, so it
sounds a bit weird.
I know, it really does sound weird, right? You know, but it was, you know, and that all came from, but the thing is that then again, that came because I had an idea, right? Which was, at the time, I was hugely into CrossFit, right? So at the time I was going to make a sportswear brand that was going to be a CrossFit brand called Jerk, because there's a move called the clean and jerk, you know, which you use quite a lot. Yeah. It's going to be called Jerk. It was going to be for CrossFitters. It was going to be a certain style, going to be very tattoo influenced, and that was my initial idea. But then I turned that into a way which was easier because I saw people in bands selling t-shirts that were doing well. So I was like, no, I think I should turn it into that. It's much easier to do that, you know, rather than do something which is out of my comfort zone. I don't really know much about that kind of world. I'll be stepping into a world where people do, you know. So that was exactly wrong. You know, like, so really I should have done the bloody CrossFit brand, you know, and I would have loved it. Yeah. And I would have been, you know, would have been something which would have been passionate to me. But I tried to take the easy road and it failed, you know, and it ended up costing me money, you know. So it was like, it was a big learning point, you know.
Yeah, I don't know if you've read any of Jim Collins' stuff, but he talks about his hedgehog. I've spoken about it a few times on the podcast, but it's about finding your real dream job, your dream role, your purpose. And he talks about the three parts that make that up. One of them is something that drives your economic engine, because it needs to make money if it's a business. The second thing is something that you're good at. And the third thing is something that you're best at the world at, is something that the way he phrases it. And then the third thing is something that drives your passion and that you're really passionate about. And I think you need all three of those things to have a successful project. If you don't have the passion and you're really good at it and it makes you money, well, that's not your hedgehog. That's never going to fill you with joy every day, is it? You're going to hate going to work.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
And you've obviously got those with your music and with acting. Certainly, I've got it with dentistry and with my with parlor. Is something that was started as a side hustle, has now become something that I'm just incredibly passionate about. Yeah. Especially after having kids and learning about the plastic crisis and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's interesting, right? It's interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm going to go and check that out. You're going to have to tell me exactly what to read or what to listen to. So.
Yeah, I will do. I've got a bit of a pathological addiction to buying books that I hear about on podcasts now, and then just not reading them, just having them on the bookshelf. And I feel like I'm going to absorb the knowledge by them just being in my house.
I have exactly the same problem. The good thing for a while was audiobooks and driving. That was fantastic, because suddenly these books that were on my bookshelf, which I'd never read, I listened to when I drove the car. Now I don't go anywhere. So I'm like, right, okay, cool. I need to find another way of resolving. I need to actually probably read these books, you know.
Yeah, now's the time, right? Now's the time.
Yeah, now is the time, yeah.
Brilliant. So I want to talk about quite a difficult topic now, and it's something that I read about while researching you. And as I say, feel free to go into it as much as you want to. But I think it'll be really powerful for people to hear about your struggles, your tough times that you had after Busted with addiction, with alcohol and drugs and that sort of stuff. And the reason why I want to go into it is you're like I only know you now, like from the last couple of years, and you're such a well-balanced individual, and you're so calm, and you have this really calm, almost non-rockstar-y aura about you now, which is like that's the only way I've ever known you. But I imagine the Busted times were pretty crazy, and I'd love just to hear a bit about that transition and what you've learned from that whole experience in your life.
Yeah, I think to be honest, it was happening from the age of from as early as I can remember. Like I had this kind of inner battle, like, I mean, the first time I drank to oblivion, that was kind of an ongoing thing in my life, an ongoing theme, an ongoing escapism, an ongoing drive to blackout, like this kind of there was some kind of pain that I didn't want to deal with, so I wasn't prepared to go there, and so I would do anything I possibly could to kind of get myself out of that, and feel something from an outside substance of some kind, something that changed myself, so changed the way I felt, and I found multiple different things in life that changed the way I felt, but I don't really. I think a lot of people get confused sometimes when they hear people within bands and stuff talk about this stuff, because I would have been the same if I worked in Tesco's. I would have been the same if I worked in a bank. I would have been the same if I worked anywhere. It was me that was the problem, not my atmosphere, not where I was. Like I remember when McBusted started, like a few people close to me were like, "Are you gonna be all right? Like, you can be okay going back into a band and going on tour and stuff again?" I was like, dude, I'm a very different person to the person I was back then. I've done a lot of work to get where I am today, and I wasn't worried at all, because it's like, it wasn't the band, it wasn't the end of the band, it wasn't the sadness, it was the sadness, but that spurred me to get worse and worse and worse at different points. But sometimes I'd be elated and I'd ruin things, like it was something within me which was an innate kind of part of me that was unresolved, and until I addressed that, until I looked and found out what part of me was, what was causing that, why have I got this hole that I try to fill with all these different things, that is in this endless bottomless pit that won't take anything, like, what is this, until I find out that, and until I look at that, and I'm still looking at that daily. I have to deal with that guy. He talks to me sometimes, whispers in my ear, "You should do that. And that looks really fun. You should try that. That looks really tasty," or whatever it is, like that, this little guy in my ear, I have to deal with that guy every day, so, but I have ways to deal with him now, and I have ways to kind of notice my behavior. And, but it does creep up on me, and it really does. And it has a few times in this lockdown, I'm really into nutrition and health and fitness, and kind of like, that's a big part of my life. And man, this lockdown, like from like early December, my diet went out the window, my training went out the window, everything went out the window. Suddenly I realized I was behaving very differently, and I was using something else, which was sugar and junk food and these things that I kind of would have on the odd cheat day. The odd cheat day was every day, and I was kind of using something else to change the way I felt. And normally people would go, "Dude, like, it's a pandemic, take care of yourself. That's self-care. That's okay." It's not self-care for me. That's self-sabotage for me. That's not this. It's different because, and I think that's the mixed message I hear. Right. It's a personal thing for me. Like, it's not self-care. Like, it's something else. I'm using it for something that other people don't use it for, which is, and I had to catch myself, but luckily, that's the thing, like, I'm in a very different place, and I have these tools I have learned over time with the help of other people to use to understand what is happening within my thinking and the way I can spin something, and I'm very crafty. I can turn anything into what I want it to be, but I have these amazing,
absolutely,
amazing abilities to do that now.
And can you go a bit deeper into what those tools are? Is there specific things? Is it a mindset thing? Is it changing your physiological state? Like how do you control those urges? Because I mean everyone has them to a greater or lesser degree, right? So I think it'd be really powerful if we could hear a few of those.
Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, I'm part of the biggest thing, was stopping taking mind-altering substances of any kind. I live a life of abstinence from those, and I'm not to say that, and also I don't think about forever. I think about per day, and I have to keep it in the day, right? Because if I think about, well, actually now it doesn't bother me. The thought of not having a drink again I don't give a shit. Like I couldn't care less. You put a drink in front of me, I wouldn't drink it. I know what happens. I've done it multiple times. Doesn't bother me, but I can't really think about the future like that. So I keep everything in the day, and so in the start of the day, I have certain things that I'm going to do that day. One of them is not take drugs and not drink alcohol, and that is something which I'm not going to do that day. And then I get to the end of the day and I'm like, well done. You didn't drink alcohol or take drugs today. Well done, pat on the back. Then I go to bed, I rinse, repeat, start again. And you know what? That works for years and years and years and years and years if you can do it right and you have the right tools around you to do that. And I'm part of a fellowship which has helped me learn those tools, and there's steps and there's guidance that has taught me some tools that I have used. And I've also used some other tools from other people that I find influencing, I read some stuff by Dr. Gabor Mate, which was about addiction, kind of like who I found on the Tim Ferriss podcast. That blew me away. But it's very different to the information that I was given at the fellowship that I'm in. So it's very, but it's still really interesting, and that's the thing. I'm not dogmatic. I'm not part of a club. I'm very open to anyone's ideas. And I feel like a lot of people are much cleverer than me, and so I'm willing to listen to them, take them on board, and get as much information as I can. I try to not get too stressed. Stress doesn't work very well with me, which is very hard for me, to not get too stressed. I have a very quick stress response, and I'm trying to stop or to prolong the moment between thought and action, which through mindfulness, meditation, all these kind of things, which I struggle with. I've actually got something at the moment which is incredible. It's called, this is not an ad. I just found this thing on Kickstarter years ago and found myself getting it delivered a few months ago. And it's, I struggle with meditation, and I found this little device called Sensate, and it's this little pebble that goes in your chest and it resonates through your chest bone, and it stimulates your vagus nerve, which stops your fight or flight response. Over time, you can learn to train yourself to stop that reaction. And the first time I used it, I had like a profound experience.
Awesome.
Like,
how do you spell that?
Sensate. It's Sensate. I think it's my Sensate on internet. I'm not really sure, but dude, this thing is incredible. Like, I put it on for 10 minutes, and I had like 10 minutes of what felt like the most intense meditation I'd ever had in my life. And I was like, that's in 10 minutes. I was like, wow, I've struggled to get 10 seconds before. So anyway, this thing, and so I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly trying to try new things and, to try and get a bit more zen, a bit more chill. Yeah. Because I've learned that my stress response.
Well, we all are, I think, aren't we?
It's not good for me. Yeah.
You mentioned before there that about your therapist. Have you had a therapist for a long time? Is it something that's been really powerful for you? For me, certainly, I'm very, very similar to you in many ways in that I'm awful with stress. My emotional response to things is sometimes over the top. one way or the other, and I'm trying to sort of bring everything down to the middle a little bit. But with me, it tends to be either I'm super pumped about something or I'm really worried about something. So I've thought about therapy myself. Is it something that you found to be powerful for you?
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to have a few different kind of big influential people in my life in the form of therapists. I've kind of talked through, some trauma and some parts of my life that, that were uncomfortable to go to, but, my God, is it the best thing I ever did? I think there's something about men and therapy which doesn't sit well. I'm not sure what that is. Like for me, I felt uncomfortable. I was embarrassed. I didn't tell anybody I had a therapist for years, but I was getting so many benefits from it. I was like, why am I not telling every guy that I see that, like, dude, there's like, we should be talking more and more, like it's really doing me a lot of good, and finding the right one, I'm sure, is difficult, and not everyone can afford that. And I get that, there are ways to go around that through the NHS and kind of find different things like that. But for me, with drug addiction, that was a big thing, coming out of that and finding out why you maybe react the way you do. And finding out ways to kind of to deal with parts of yourself that you weren't willing to look at was another one, but it's and also just having someone to talk to sometimes about stuff that you necessarily don't want to say out loud, like sometimes, or whatever. It's been a really powerful thing for me. But looking inwards and having someone there at certain points to guide you through this self-reflection, has been incredible. I really encourage, sometimes, like the last person I went to, who I'm with now, I don't really have any reason to go. It's just like I don't really have anything to say. like I felt like I didn't really need it, but for some reason I found myself at someone's door, and before I knew it, this person has had the most profound experience with me. So I went to her at a moment where I didn't feel I needed it, and I had something that has made more sense than ever. So it's it's like it's sometimes it's like it's like prehab, right? So it's like do the warm up so you don't hurt yourself in the run. Sometimes for me, I think therapy's a bit like that. I think all these things are a bit like that. I'm really scared of hurting myself in the big event. So I do certain things so I can balance myself a little bit more, and therapy's been a big part of that. I've had a few different styles in the past, but they all, talking works, man. It's a big thing, big part of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I completely agree. I think, and this is why I keep on saying this. I had Jim Chapman on the podcast, and he said exactly the same thing. He said he basically tells all of his mates to go to a therapist, whether they feel happy, they feel sad, whatever it is, because it is just like going to the gym. You go to the gym, you exercise, you work out, so you're in good shape, so that you're ready to go when the moment arrives. And I think we're all going to go through negative life events at different periods in our life. That's one of the only things that's guaranteed. And I think the more mindsets and structures and the more control you have over your mind state, the better. I think that's what scares me. Is I feel so grateful for everything I have in my life right now, but I'm just waiting for that phone call that's just going to knock me out the park. And I think maybe some prehab therapy might help with that. I want to talk a bit now about how you juggle, and this is a very selfish question because I have a child and I have another one soon to be on the way, how you juggle your family life. And I know obviously both you and your wife Emma, both really, really successful careers, very busy careers. How do you balance all of that? Your career, Emma's career, being a parent, spending time with each other with the successful nature of your jobs?
Yeah, I mean that's been something which has adjusted through time, and there's been moments when both of us have been busier than we would necessarily have liked to have been, and there's been moments when we've not been, There's been moments of my career when I've been very quiet, and the same when I think when me and Emma first got in our relationship, we kind of there was moments of time when she had the same patterns, so it was but life is like that, right? And I think you deal with things as they come up. The thing is, right, is that I can speak for myself and I can speak a little bit for Emma, but number one, we're parents, and I think that was I never knew I wanted to be anything in life apart from a father. When I think about it, all I ever really knew I ever really wanted to be was a dad. So I am so fortunate to have this experience, so I'm gonna try really hard not to fuck it up. Because it means so much to me, and these little people mean so much to me, so it's so first and foremost, that's what we are, right? So that comes before everything, and family first, right? So it's that comes before every decision we make. But then we both have an understanding that our careers are not solid, so that so many moving parts to both of our careers, that when something comes along that feels like a good opportunity, you should probably take that, and then if there's something comes along, or if it feels too much, we can address something, but we don't, we always follow the opportunity until we think, and then we'll address how we're going to deal with it at different points. Luckily, for me, it's been more about the time I've been away touring over the years. I mean, that's been the hardest thing for us, I think, was the amount of time that a band can sometimes be on the road has been tough. I mean, Emma's really busy, but she gets to come home, so there's something about Daddy being away, which was problematic, I think. And so luckily, I know that, and I noticed that, and I don't want to be an absent father, I'm very aware of how I structure that. So suddenly we had a rule that I would never be away for more than 3 weeks, so whatever happened with touring, whenever I was away for more than 3 weeks, Emma felt it in the kids, so we were like, right, okay, I will never be away for more than 3 weeks. So 3 weeks is the time that I could be away. Then they have to be with me, or I have to be with them, or we have to be in physical contact with each other. Anything more than that, and you can see and feel a distance, so that was, and there's only been one time in the last kind of 10 years where we've had to kind of go, I can't not do this, and that was what with the McBusted tour. We were on tour with One Direction, and we were away for I think it was 60 days or something at one point. And that was really hard. That was really hard because I was in Australia as well. So it's really far away, and it was a really, but it was an opportunity which at the time I had so many other people involved. And for me to have said no would have cost so many other people the opportunity. So we had to talk about that as a family and we had to make the decision. And we did, and we went through it. And then we realized that it was really hard, So I won't do that again. I'm now at a position in my life where I'm like, right, okay, we know that if we're away for longer than we want to be, it's uncomfortable for the family and Emma as well. But luckily she always, with her work, she's always away for short periods of time. So I know I've just got a part in a show that is going on tour later this year. And it's a show that I've always dreamed of being a part of. And I'm lucky enough to have got the role, and we're on tour. Hopefully, if everything goes well later in the year, so that will be. But I've worked out the tour. We've looked at it. We've mapped it all out. We've looked at every date, and we're like, right. So you're home here. You're home here. You're home here. You're home for 2 weeks here. You come home on this night and go away this night. That's how we work. So we have to have some kind of structure. Otherwise. I don't know, you never want to look back and go, oh man, I wish I hadn't done that. I never want to think that, so we try to do everything we can to make sure it doesn't happen.
It's a delicate balance between that feeling and between, as you say, not being there, right? It's That's the difficulty with being a parent.
And also, you know, it's a delicate balance between following your passion and knowing you have a responsibility somewhere else. You know, so that is something which you have to kind of understand as a parent, that whatever drive you have, whatever passion you have, whatever, you know, look, I'm saying that I know nothing about anybody else. This is me personally. I shouldn't speak for anybody else. But for me, like whatever drive I have, whatever kind of like, oh my God, that's what I need to be doing. There's where I need to go. That's what I need to do. Without this, I'm nothing, you know, and I'm completely alone. And I'm like, this is my number one priority. So I will always make that my number one priority, you know. But it's a struggle, you know. Sometimes you're busier than other times, and sometimes you have to go, I just need some time with my family, you know, or do you know what? Sometimes I just need some time with my wife. You know, you know, that comes across for every relationship. Yeah. I think it's like, just need a weekend away, just me and you, you know, and we take them, we take date nights, we do, you know, weekends away when we can, you know, like, I mean, it's been a big part of our marriage for, you know, for the last kind of 13 years or whatever, you know, it's kind of been being able to know that we need time to just be a couple, as well as being parents, as well as being on the telly and being in a band and doing this stuff. We also need to be these two people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Me and Megs have, we park time. We literally write it into the calendar on a week by week, month by month basis as to when we're going to have time. And it sounds very contrived and very probably overly structured, but if you don't do that, it's so easy to be whipped away, especially when you've got kids, because as you say, you might be in the same place, but if you're managing the kids and that sort of thing, then you're not necessarily having that quality time, which I think is so important, because you see so many people get to the end of their kids' teenage years when their kids move away from the house, and then suddenly they get divorced because they haven't had a relationship for the last 20 years.
Yeah, I think that's so apparent, you know, and I think that's amazing that you block it in. I think it's incredible, because we do. You know, like, and we have to, because also there's a commitment made there. Like, there's a commitment between the two of you, right? So, and you've made a commitment, and you know, that's a really important part of our marriage. You know, is our commitment to each other. So, like, we will put something in, and that's our commitment. Whatever happens, nothing gets in the way of that. You know, and like sometimes something will come up, and we'll have to talk about it. You know, but like very rarely will anything be more important than that, because we both know how important that is. You know,
for sure. And I mean, structure, I think, is something that you've mentioned a few times today. Do you have, and we mentioned this before the call, do you have a structure to your days? I know it's probably a bit different at the moment, but for example, when you wake up in the morning, do you have a set structure, a routine of the way that you do things? Can you talk to that at all?
I've had different periods of my life where I've needed different structures. You know, like, and I have certain periods of my life when I know I need to get more of a certain thing going on. You know, like, I don't have a set morning routine right now, which is something which kind of went out the window in the second lockdown. I kind of stopped. I used to get up right at 5:45, and I used to get on we both have the Peloton bike, you know, which can become a big part of your life, you know, and I used to get up at 5:45, get on this bike, and work out, and then have my shower, finish with the cold shower, have a coffee, get the kids up. You know, that used to be my morning routine, right? But that was when the kids had to go to school at a certain time, and they had to be dressed and fed, and, you know, that doesn't need to happen anymore. They're at home right now. And also I don't have to go to bed earlier than everyone else because I have to be prepared for my morning, you know, so it's, that kind of went out the window, and now we're kind of in this different part now where we're kind of freeballing things, but I do make time for myself every day. And I think that's not selfish. That's needed, you know, because otherwise I can become all over the place, you know. So I need to set aside, even if it's 10 minutes, you know. But I work out most days now, you know, because that's something which I find changes my inner chatter, you know, and kind of silences that a little bit. And I find out that. I find that I need to do some kind of movement, some kind of exercise per day, and it helps me. But that's something which I fit into every day. Some kind of moment of stillness I fit into every day, and whatever that may be. And you know, good coffee. God, I love coffee.
What coffee do you have? Give us your coffee recommendations, because I've got a bean to cup machine myself. So if you've got any good beans, let me know.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, I'm a workshop bean snob now. That's kind of become my go-to. I have I have them. They get delivered every week. So I've got like a subscription service now, because I hated finishing them. And having to find or go to somewhere else and not have the beans that I love. So now they've got a subscription, so it comes in every week, which is really handy. So try that.
So is Workshop the brand?
Workshop is the brand, yeah. Workshop Coffee. They've got coffee shops in London, and I've always kind of navigated towards their coffee shops whenever I'm in town, because they have the best cortado, and it's just the one I go to. I sometimes will go to somewhere else, or I have this little app called Coffee in Touch. I'm a bit of a snob when it comes to coffee, so I'll search out good coffee. Like if it's worth going for, I will go find it. But Workshop was always a place where I would look for, and it was always my go-to. They've got some great coffee shops, so I would. Now I have a subscription with them, and they send me coffee every week. And it's worth the money. It's great.
Brilliant. That's definitely my next subscription. Then I'll sign up to that after the call.
Okay.
All right, Matt. I want to finish with the question that I ask everyone at the end of the podcast, which is, what is the one small change that you've made in your life that you wish you made 10, 20, 30 years earlier?
I mean, the one that comes to obvious mind would be to stop drinking, and to stop using. But I actually don't think that's true, because I don't regret a thing. I look back at my life and it needed to happen, because it's led to me being the man I am today. So I don't really regret those things. I've done things when I've been under the influence that I regret and I'm sorry for, and I've made amends for those things. But I don't regret being the person I am today because of the things that I've done in the past. So, if I could tell myself something earlier, it'd probably be to talk to someone. Because you don't understand your own head. And you know what? The first ever person I went to to a professional therapist said, Matt, never go inside your own head without an adult present. And I stick by that.
That's brilliant. I love that. Awesome, mate. Well, Matt, thank you so much for today. It's been an awesome chat. I've really, really loved it. I think there's so many pieces of value to be taken from that. Such an interesting story, and can't wait to hear more about these projects and this tour you've got coming up later on in 2021. And yeah, hopefully see you on stage, either playing with the band or at the theatre when we can all get back to normality.
Oh my God, I can't wait for those days. Here we go. They're coming. They're definitely coming.
Great. Okay, thanks a lot, mate. Catch you later.
Thanks, man. Bye-bye.